a British-Latino network production.
Welcome back to another episode of the British-Latino Network podcast. Continuing our series of Hispanic Heritage Month this September and October, I have the pleasure to announce that today we have Amber Donoso with us. She's an emerging British Latina singer and songwriter with a very interesting background, very unique style. And it's an absolute pleasure to be able to talk to her today. Amber, how are you doing?
Thank you so much. What a lovely welcome. Yeah, I'm really good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you very much. I'm very excited to be able to talk to you today. I've been following your music, your page, and something that strikes me sort of instantly is that your style, at least from my perspective, is very, very creative.
Thank you.
Very bright in terms of the colors as well. So it's always it's very, very I can see how that probably moves into your music as well.
Yeah, big time. Thank you. Yeah, I think definitely my very bright hair, like pink purple hair, definitely stands out. That's for sure. And no, I actually dyed my hair this color around a year, well, just over a year actually ago, a year and a half ago. And ever since I just loved it. And I thought it really felt like it was me. So yeah, I stuck with it.
No, it looks really good.
Thank you.
Cool. Okay, so Amber, you, like I said, you have a very interesting background, and I'm sort of going to ask you the questions, and you're going to allow us to sort of get insight into your background. So, from what I sort of know, from a bit of research that I've done, you are the daughter of an English fashion model who's called Lisa Butcher.
Yeah.
And your dad was one of the greatest Chilean polo players, who was called Yankee Donoso.
Yeah.
So that is it's not like sort of your typical artist. There's definitely a lot of excellence that runs in your family.
Thank you.
Coming off from that. So I guess from my sort of question is, how was it growing up, being Amber?
You know what, it's a brilliant question, because I've actually thought about this a lot. Mm-hmm. I mean, in regards to my family, growing up, I think it was strange because on one side, my parents divorced when I was very young. Mm-hmm. So I kind of had half of my life in the UK and half in Chile, mm-hmm. but they were very, very different lifestyles. Like my lifestyle in the UK when I was younger was very fashion based, was very quite clean cut. And when I would go to Chile, it was me on a farm with horses, total opposite. Yeah. And I really, really loved that. But I think, growing up with parents who, are very successful, they just felt like my parents, Yeah. I didn't ever look at them as to, look at my mum's success. I was too young. Mm-hmm. And I think I've only, the older I've gotten and started to kind of, I guess, become more of an adult, start to be wow, look how successful my parents were. And I feel so proud and lucky to have not only successful parents as in with their careers, but they are really incredible people. I've just been very, very lucky to have them as not only my parents, but, my best friends as well.
Yeah. Okay. And so sort of going deeper into that contrast of, that's a very interesting contrast. And I think it's a very, it must have been very eye-opening as well. And a positive experience, because you're able to sort of look, experience different lifestyles and mm-hmm. and be able to gain new perspectives as well on what life is.
Big time.
So what was it like spending time in Chile?
I mean, so culturally, my mum actually grew up in Indonesia. Right. She grew up in Bali. So culturally, she's not really British. I mean, mm-hmm. she's obviously by blood, but so she's a very, very warm character. And then, my dad was very kind of more extroverted. He was a big joker and he was very, very Chilean. So I kind of had two very loving and kind parents, but very different lifestyles. And it was very humbling because I needed both of them. Yeah. Because if I would have just had one of them, I think I would have come out very, very differently. Yeah. And especially with the Chile side of being on a farm, with horses all the time, it was very important for my development. And yeah, like I've always been very interested in different cultures and different people, and it plays a big part of me as a person, like aside from my music. I'm super interested in getting to know different people and their cultures and why people are the way they are. Like I actually considered being a therapist, believe it or not.
Right.
And I've done a lot of therapy myself, and I've been really interested in mental health. So like for me, getting to know people's stories and why they are the way they are has always been fascinating. So yeah, I'm really lucky, and I think I've maybe got that interest because I grew up in two literally very, very different cultures. And yeah, I mean, on one side it was amazing, but obviously the older you get, like I started to find actually which culture do I fit in with, and I had slightly a culture kind of like trying to find where I fit in. It was kind of like I don't really know how to describe it, but yeah, I think being mixed race, like mixed cultured, you can slightly sometimes feel out of place depending on where you are, and yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean,
yeah,
I think there's a lot of Latinos in the UK, you know, we sort of feel, I guess, sort of, like you said, culturally sort of out of place at times. Like,
yeah,
if you go back,
that's how to describe that.
If you go back to, for example, my case, if I go back to Ecuador, I speak the language, and obviously I'm pretty much like Ecuadorian or Latino, but still, there's still like, I feel like there's a gap there anyway in terms of culture.
Big time.
And so you sort of end up in this sort of midpoint where you're sort of stuck in between.
Yeah, and I kind of found growing up personally, I mean, you'd grown up in the UK, if I'm correct. Yeah. Like, I didn't have very many Latinos in the UK. I didn't know any. Yeah. So the older I got, I actually more, like, my best friends ended up being, like, Jamaican, African, all very, like, heavy on culture, but not Latinos. And then it was funny because when I would go over to Chile, I felt super out of place as well because I'm 6 foot tall. I'm really like, I'm slim. Yeah. I've got pink hair. Like, I speak very British. I've got piercings, tattoos. That I also felt very out of place because the area which I'm from in Chile is still quite conservative. Right. So yeah, I definitely felt the older I got, it wasn't so much when I was little, but the older I got, I felt that like real cultural difference and where do I fit in? Yeah. And then I just got to the point as to, do I need to fit in anywhere, or can I just make my own lane and fit in my own lane and maybe create a lane for people who also feel that way and they don't need to like slot into the norms, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And I think also, you know, there's more, I think sometimes, and I can say I'm sort of guilty of this as well, sometimes we can misinterpret the idea of fitting in because, of course, let's say like aesthetically, right, visually, maybe perhaps that may be the case, like how you described it. But obviously culture and in terms of the actual personality, the person you are goes far more deeper than, you know, your appearance. So although perhaps, you know, visually you may not fit in, you're still very much Chilena anyway. So you still have those, you know, like every sort of country, every person from every country will have their own certain ways of saying things, of thinking, because it's just the way they've been influenced from when they were younger.
You know what, you're so right. And I think, sorry to interrupt, but I found like even stuff like when I would go back to Chile, because I grew up here, I didn't know the slang. Right. So it would be like I wasn't on that level because I wasn't there all the time. But then also in the UK, like I'm very Latina personality wise, and I'm very outgoing, and I'm very like, I love dancing, and I'm like, I don't know, I'm just very Latina. And I think, I wasn't used to having, as I said, I didn't have any Latinas around me, so other than my family. So I felt like maybe I was a bit, I was just different, you know? Yeah.
Okay, and so, like you said, so you didn't really have much sort of Latinos around or Latinas around here in the UK.
Yeah.
How did you then sort of decide that? Because, how did you sort of, what was like the first interactions that you started to have with Latinos in the UK?
That's a really good question. I mean, I have my family. I have some of my family, the Chilean side, who live over in the UK. Yeah. So I would meet like when my dad was still alive, because he passed away when I was younger. He would he would always come over for seasons to play polo. So all of the Latinos would come over. So it was only ever people who were older than me or their children. But in my normal day-to-day life, like school life and everything, I didn't have any. And it was only more recently, and when I say recently, I mean like in the past few months, where I've started to, and I'm 24 now, where I've started to interact more with Latinos here in the UK. And I think that's for quite a few different reasons. And I was with another reggaeton artist yesterday who's based here in the UK, and he was saying, you know, years ago, like, you know, the Latinos and the artists, they were nowhere to be found here. And I think it's because reggaeton is starting to be a little bit more popular here in the UK that people are starting to step forward a little bit more. So that's how we're kind of like now finding each other a little bit more. Another thing is I used to go to a couple of reggaeton clubs here in the UK, and I used to love them. They were brilliant. And that's where I also would meet more Latinos.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, like I was saying to you before we went live, was that, yeah, there definitely seems to be more Latin-based, Latino artists here in the UK now than there were before. There were still, I remember, a few from my time. I'm not that much older than you. I'm 26, so my time isn't that far behind. But
no, not at all.
But I do remember a few as well. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely.
But did you find that they were like heavily promoting themselves and they were like properly active?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Were they? Good for them?
Yeah, definitely. But I think that it was a bit different as well, because nowadays social media is much more of a tool and more effective than it was, let's say, 8 years ago. 8 years ago, people were sort of sharing stuff on Facebook, MySpace, sometimes Bebo, stuff like that. Whereas now, really with Instagram, I think, yeah, your reach increases a lot, and not just only to reach the public, but, you know, to sort of network with other artists. So
big time. Yeah. That's like the best form of networking, unless you're doing it in person. It's literally through Instagram.
Yeah.
That's how I met loads of the reggaeton guys here. It was just like, oh, you're a reggaeton artist too? Like, let me hear your music. Then they'll hear mine and they'll be, oh, let's work together, or let's talk, you know. That's kind of the easiest tool.
Yeah. So, okay, so you're obviously a reggaeton artist. So what influenced your, what influenced you to sort of, basically become an artist in reggaeton?
So it's a little bit of a long story, but kind of to cut it short, when my dad died when I was 10, I started playing the guitar, and I don't come from a musical family at all. And I found playing the guitar, it was actually like almost like a popular phase at my school. People just started playing the guitar. It was really crazy. And at the time, a friend of my mum's is a musician, and he gave me a keyboard and my sister a guitar. And I was just like, God, I really actually want to get my hands on the guitar, like forget the keyboard. So I actually like was like, hey, to my sister, I was like, Ollie, like swap, like, can I play the guitar? And I started playing the guitar, and it came super, super easily to me. Like it was just almost like my hands fitted the guitar, somewhat like as if I'd played it before, but I never had done. And then I started singing a couple of months later, and then I started songwriting at 13. But even if you look at videos of me when I'm very, very young, I'm like doing like air guitar playing and like holding an imaginary microphone. So I think way before I even started my actual musical journey, I was somewhat always going to be an artist. It's kind of funny to look back on it. But anyway, so once I started the guitar at 10, I knew straight away that I wanted to be an artist, like 100%. And it was almost like my gift out of losing my dad. And my dad was my bestest friend. So I was really, really grieving when I lost my dad. So yeah, I just used to write songs, and I was very much more of an acoustic artist. I was like more of kind of like an Ed Sheeran sort of sound, and Ellie Goulding. Those are the artists I used to listen to. And but then I used to always realize that when I was singing, my vocal was very riffy. And I mean that as to like, I would move through notes really quickly, which isn't stylistic of like a singer with guitar sort of thing particularly. It's more stylistic for R&B and hip hop. And then at 16, I started a performing arts school and I studied music technology. So I wanted to get more of kind of a background on music. So I learned how to produce a little bit and how to kind of engineer my own vocals. And at that point, I was heavily into R&B and hip hop. But at this point, I grew up on reggaeton. Like reggaeton was always there, but it just wasn't. After I lost my dad and I was living here, I really suffered losing my dad, if I'm honest with you. So I kind of I think hid a little bit in the UK. So I slightly lost. I had almost like a little bit of a fear of being back in touch with my Latin roots because it felt so painful. But anyway, so then I started getting more into R&B and hip hop. And at this point, I started recording a bit more and I was working with producers. And then at 18, also 16 to 18, 19, I was modeling at the time, making some money for my music career. Because being an artist, this is a whole other conversation, but you have to self-fund and it's very expensive. So then, at that point, I was doing that. And then I was just like, you know what, something's just not clicking here. And I'm quite tough on myself, but I think you have to be, when you're an artist, you have to be realistic and know what your market is. And the music was good. It was very good. And I say that humbly, but it wasn't giving me the success I wanted. So I realized it's like, I'm just not different enough with the sound I'm doing. So I kind of had to sit down, and after a hell of a lot of rejection, I got in this industry really battered with a lot of rejection. And I kind of was thinking, I was like, what can I do which is different? What's fresh? What's interesting? What would get people talking and wanting to listen to my music versus Rihanna's, let's say. And then I thought, reggaeton, of course reggaeton. It was like a light bulb moment for me. And at this point I felt like I'd done a lot of healing around my dad, so I was in a better place within myself, and I was just like, I actually want to honor my dad by speaking more Spanish, by being more heavily involved in the Latin culture. So then what I did was I was just like, okay, let's use what I've been doing, which is R&B. Let's mix R&B with reggaeton. Let's try and do something a little bit fresh and different. So now what I do is literally mix British R&B, because I sound very British, and then mix it with my Chilean reggaeton. And it's just like, this kind of came into place more a couple of years ago now. But ever since, it was just like, it was finally, I found my sound, and I found what, I could play a song to someone and I wouldn't even need to be in the room. And I felt like that song was me as an artist. I wouldn't have to describe myself. And then I feel like that's a moment where you know that you've kind of done your job as finding your sound as an artist, is where you don't even need to explain yourself. Like the song does the explaining, like this is who I am. So that's kind of long story made short.
No, I mean, thank you for sharing that. I think something that is very true from when you're a musician or an artist of any kind is that what you do is very much an expression of your identity and and your feelings, your thought processes, and just sort of your beliefs. So I can totally see how obviously at that point it was more of a case of sort of trying to sort of move away from the Latin American sort of influence, because that's something that, like I said, it's something that's music is very, very intimate in that sense. And, if you're sort of investing yourself in that, in producing Latin American music, it's just obvious that at some point something's gonna, you're gonna sort of feel some sort of emotion there, because it's just part of your journey. But, that sort of moment where you realize that, well, this is like you said, the light bulb moment. I think it was probably like a realization, but like you said, it was a time of you now being able to move past that, I guess, in some sense, but being able to sort of take it on now, because at some point, when you go through like an experience like that, it can very much feel like a burden at times.
Big time. And for anyone who's lost someone close to them, and if you really are close to them, it is a really horrible pain to deal with, and it's not a pain which goes away quickly. On a whole other thing, like I still feel the death of my dad, and it's very painful for me. But you learn how to accept it and honor it, and I think yeah, like all of that other stuff of me being in slightly like more different genres, like I never lost contact with my true identity, but it felt too painful for me to be performing and
to go back,
promoting Latin music when like the connection, if that makes sense, was my dad and he was no longer there. So but it's all very funny because I think a lot of people forget that artists, their music is their story, especially if they write their music. So if they're going through a hard time, you know, sometimes their sound might change because maybe they're not comfortable going into that area in that specific moment. And I think that's the most fascinating thing about being an artist, is it's so fluid. You know, I could I don't know, 10 years down the line suddenly make a rock album. I don't know, I don't know, but I think that's the excitingness and amazingness about being an artist, is it's so creative and you don't have to stick to one lane.
Of course. No, definitely.
It's a blessing.
I think there's like many great examples of artists who have started off in one genre and then they eventually move on to another, or even the topics of what they sing about or rap about change because, you know, like I said, it's an expression of what they're thinking at that point.
Big time.
But yeah.
Even when you hear a lot of rap music, when obviously they say that they come from the streets and they haven't got any money, and then suddenly 5 years down the line they've got like a Porsche and they've got a massive mansion, the lyrics completely change, you know, like because that's their reality. Their life has changed, you know. And I just like it's so amazing. Like whenever I speak about kind of that aspect of being an artist, that's the bit which I really love, is the real rawness about it. Like forget all of the kind of flashiness for a minute. It's the expression to be able to write a story and for people to connect with it. Like that is the best feeling in the world. Yeah,
it's like the essence, the true essence of being an artist is much more than.
And that's what makes you truly happy when people listen to your music. And I think maybe, I mean, I'm not at the point yet where I can talk about having, you know, millions and millions of pounds in my bank account and having big cars and stuff. But I will always remember that the essence of what makes me happy in music is people connecting to my songs. Like the real reason why I'm doing it.
Yeah, no, definitely. So, okay, so you've obviously been doing music for quite some time now.
Yeah.
What would you say has been the highlight so far of your sort of like a moment that you think back, you're like, wow, I can't believe that actually happened?
Yeah. So I have actually two, and they're both really recent actually. One of them has to be when I met my team in Miami. So I'm actually currently in the process of moving to live in Miami.
Right.
And I was actually in Miami around 2 years ago, and I was there for 2 months working. And the last day I was there, I was in an incredible studio called Rebel 11. And I couldn't believe I was there because like Ozuna, Bad Bunny, Nicky Jam, like all of those artists all work there. So it was like, I can't believe I'm in this like space. And the studio is unbelievable. If you Google it, it's unbelievable. And Javi Rumbos and Andy were two of the guys who made this entire studio. And anyway, I met Javi as I was leaving, and he was just like, oh, like you're British Chilean, like that's super interesting. I want to hear your music. Anyway, I was coming back to the UK. I was here probably for 6 to 8 months. We carried on speaking, and then I went back over and I recorded 2 weeks with them. And it was the first moment in my life after working in this industry for quite a long time now, where I felt like I'd automatically, without like even speaking, found my musical family. And it was because they just understood me as an artist so well, and they are so lovely, because this industry is full of men. It's still very male dominated, and especially in the UK, I found it quite hard being heard as a woman in the industry. But it was like straight away when I went there, just absolute respect and respect all rounds. That I had so much respect for them and vice versa. So that was definitely a big moment for me, was just finding my team and just being around people who truly inspire me. So that was definitely one. And then the other one has to be when I went back to Chile this Christmas, and I did a really big TV show over there, and I performed, and I did like a quick interview at the end.
Yeah.
And it was amazing because it was the first big TV thing I did, and it was in Chilean, and it was just super, super relevant for me and my dad, and, you know, like having Chilean family, and it was honestly incredible for me.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
Yeah. No, I mean, that sounds fantastic, like on both of them.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, probably it's just the beginning of many or much more.
Thank you.
How was the experience of going back to Chile and actually going to perform like on live TV? How did you feel about that?
Gosh, like crazy. Because once my dad passed away, I wasn't going to Chile as often. I used to go to Chile like 4 or 5 times a year. And then I started going every 2-3 years. And also, I think it was because more obviously I was studying and I had my exams, and then I was working. And Chile is a very long way away from the UK. So it wasn't as easy for me to just like suddenly say, oh, I'm going off to Chile for a month, you know. So this trip, when I went to Chile, I knew that my single was coming out when I was in Chile. So I knew, I was just like, this is just very kind of like aligned in quite an amazing way. Like my single's coming out, my first reggaeton single's coming out when I'm in Chile. Yeah. I've just been asked to do this TV show, and it just felt like very kind of at home, because I'm very connected to Chileans, and I'm very connected to my Latin roots now. Like once I'd kind of passed that phase of, you know, kind of dealing with the grief, I am so Latina. I am so Latina by culture. Yeah. I feel very, very at home with Latino. So yeah, it felt kind of like going home for me. And Chileans, like a lot of love. They're super lovely people. And I just have a lot of time for Chileans, and it was just an incredible experience.
Yeah. So talk to us about your single. If I'm correct, the single you're referring to in that you performed, was that the Cheer You Up?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Well, I heard it, and it was really good.
Thank you. I'm so glad you like it. Thank you.
So tell me about the inspiration behind it.
So I was in Miami actually at the time, and I was in the patio of Javi and Omar, who are the 2 brothers, Los Rumbos, who I work with. Yeah. And we were just chilling, and we had the guitar out, and then an amazing artist and songwriter, Jay Moore, arrived. And then another guy, D. Tenox, arrived, who's Danny, who's my producer. Yeah. And it was the first time I'd worked with Jay Moore and D. Tenox, and they just arrived. And honestly, it was probably the best experience of writing a song I've ever had. And I've written a hell of a lot of songs. Yeah. And it's because we were just on this patio in Miami. It was probably around 9 p.m. Yeah. My best friend was there, who lives in Louisiana. Yeah. So like very mixed culturally, like going on right now. Yeah. And just like looking at like the skyline of Miami with all these like high buildings with all the lights. And then I was just like, oh, I really want to write a love song. Yeah. And then Jay started playing the guitar, and I started humming this tune. And then I swear to God, within an hour, the whole song was done. Yeah. And it's just like I have the most fond memories of writing that song, but also the meaning of that song, because obviously it's mixed in English and Spanish, and it's a very uplifting song, and it's a very like loving and happy song, but then it's also quite cheeky and sexy in the Spanish bits. And that's very much me, you know, like I'm quite a cheeky person, but I'm very happy and giggly, and like it really felt like it was me in a song. And it just, when we recorded it in the studio, it was just the most amazing process. That was in Rebel 11. And that was just the process. It was so quick and easy, and not all songwriting sessions are like that. Sometimes you can have a session with the most talented people, but just for some reason the creativity isn't flowing. You know, creativity isn't like a computer either. Like, you know, you're not gonna every single day bang out a number 1 tune. Like in my experience, it's not like that. Maybe for some other people it is, but I kind of had just that day, everyone's creativity was on the same vibe, and we were just like, oh my gosh, the song, and we love it. And that's kind of how it came about.
Yeah. No, I mean, after when I was listening to it, that is definitely the sort of the feeling as the listener that you get. That is very sort of like chill, like relaxed, but at the same time, it sort of makes you feel like a bit happy and a bit sort of like energetic.
Oh, so, good. Yeah, thank you.
No, I really enjoyed it. So, yeah, no, I think sort of in every sort of field, and obviously much more in music or in any creative field, those sort of click moments are so important, because
so important.
Something like very like unique and sort of like pure comes out from it, like, you know, like something different. Whereas when you're sort of consistently putting hours in, it can sort of be, it's still yours, but it's not the same. It's
not the same level of authenticity, I think.
Yeah.
Sometimes there are songs, and I can play loads of songs on my laptop of my own, and there are just some songs which connect differently, and it's because in that moment just something clicked. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I totally agree with you.
Yeah. Okay, so like you said, you've been, you know, you've had your fair share of time here so far in the music industry. Like, you've spent some time in the music industry, but you also mentioned that there's been like things that you've come across, like challenges and some sort of like barriers, I'm guessing, into the industry. What would you say is one of the toughest things of the industry that you've had to endure?
There's a hell of a lot of rejection. That was like the first thing that comes to mind. You have to be, and I know everyone says this, but I truly mean it, you have to be super thick-skinned. And I worked in the modeling industry before, and it was always with the intention to be an artist, but that's also a really hard industry because they constantly are picking at you for what you look like. It's like you're either not skinny enough, you're not tall enough, your nose isn't small enough, your mouth isn't big enough. And I found that tough as well, but I found the music industry 50 million times tougher, because I felt not only do you have to look, you know, a certain way, you have to look like an artist, you're also getting judged on what you sound like. You're also getting judged on how you write. You're also getting judged on how many followers you have. You're also getting judged on how you perform. You're also getting judged with how you walk into a room and present yourself. There's a lot of things people are looking out for, and they nowadays, I think more than ever, the industry wants they want a Shakira who's already a Shakira.
Yeah.
They don't want to spend time investing money and their time in creating that. So I found it really, really tough, and I found, like from a very young age of working, you know, in music, like just a hell of a lot of rejection. And it was so tough at first. It was so tough because it was just like, you know, either my songwriting wasn't good enough or my voice didn't sound good enough. And people would say it very harshly sometimes. It would be like, no, you're not a good enough songwriter to write this song, or no, your vocal's not right for this, or oh, you need to practice this, or like, and it was really tough. It was honestly really, really tough. And there's a lot of saying yeses, like a lot of people saying yes, and then nothing ever happens. There's also, it's tough if you ever get dropped. I got dropped by a manager. That was really, really tough. But you know what? Looking back on it, everything happens for a reason. And to any artist who's listening to this, like, that's just something which is part of the process to learn it yourself. But I wish I'd integrated that feeling into myself years ago, rather than look at myself and be like, what's wrong with me? Why isn't my sound like sticking? Why isn't my voice apparently good enough for this one guy? You know, like, everything happens for a reason, and you have to trust the process, because if that manager drops you, or if this guy says no to you, I promise you it's for a reason, and the universe will direct you to the right person. And the reason why I speak like that is because it's happened to me. I got so much rejection. And I know I keep saying it, but I really, really want to put that across. Like, it was so hurtful. I got so much rejection. And finally, you know, 24 years and years and years after working in this industry, just things fell into place. Like, without me even almost trying. And it was almost like that years of me grafting kind of like was starting to pay off, like in a prolonged effect, if that makes sense. So even if you don't start to see kind of the payoffs initially, like, you never give up. If something's your dream and there's no dream which is too big, you just have to grind. And I think it's in any industry to be successful, it's obviously having the talent or whatever it takes to obviously pursue that. But I think every industry also is down to persistence, like never giving up.
Yeah. So I'm guessing most of the rejection probably comes from people who are already established in the industry, like
producers, songwriters, exactly, agents, booking agents, A&Rs, label people, publishers, everyone who's already kind of in the industry.
Yeah. Okay.
And obviously that's tough because you want them to like it.
Of course.
You know, they're people who are already in the industry, so you're wanting that yes from these people, and even like I'm to put things in percentages, like you want at least 50% to like it. But I've had 5% like it.
Right.
You know, that's kind of how much we're talking here. And I would like to say, like, I'm my own biggest fan, and I think you have to be as an artist in order to conquer the rejection. Like, you have to know that at the end of the day, you're proud of your music and you believe in it, and you're not going to take a no for an answer. And you have to be fearless, and you have to be hard as a rock for that.
Yeah. Well, I think obviously I can understand how it was tough because, like you said, you're sort of seeking you sort of need their yes, I guess, to sort of start off and sort of be able to sort of kick off from there. And sometimes people in that position abuse their power and they, take advantage. They feel like they can talk to you any certain way, and nothing will happen to them because they're already established in their field.
And I'd prefer personally, if someone doesn't like something, of course you're entitled to your opinion. I totally respect that. But I'd like you to tell me what I could work on. I'd like you to tell me, like, in a kind way, how about trying something like this? Or I don't find that this part of the song works personally. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think as an artist as well, you have to be open. If you want to be successful, you have to be open for constructive criticism. And it doesn't mean that you need to change your sound or your initial like artistry, but just be open from people who are successful in the industry, be open to hear what they have to say.
Yeah. And through all of this sort of situation where you're facing rejection, obviously it was very tough for you. How did you keep motivated, like, to push through?
So I think there's always two different answers, but I think the main answer is ever since I was very little, I've been very fearless with my career. Yeah. It's like almost when my dad died, like I got the worst out of the situation and I was like, I'm going to be a big superstar with my music and I will never let anything get in the way of that. So it was almost like I had made a promise to myself as a 10-year-old, which is kind of crazy to think I'm never giving up. And it was because it was almost the situation of losing. It's like losing something. I'm going to gain this and I'm not going to let anyone take that away from me. So from a very heavy situation, I think that's when I got the fearlessness from it. And that's something which I did a mental health talk recently and someone asked me that question and they said, how would you kind of try and explain for other people to have that? And I think you have to find it within yourself. I don't feel like I don't think there's an equation for it. But I think also if you have such love for something, you're just not going to take a no for an answer. Like, my love for music is so deep. You can tell me anything and trust me, I'm still not giving up. Like, that's the sort of kind of like toughness you have to have with yourself with it as well.
Yeah. And I think as well, when it's such a big passion, it's you, it becomes a part of you. So sort of saying no or sort of stopping pursuing that goal is sort of like saying no to yourself, I guess, in some sense, and just trying to forget or erase this part of your identity.
It's quite heavy to say this, but I don't think I'd be able to live my life without music. It's really my soul, and it's what makes me truly, it brings me a lot of happiness and it brings me a lot of down moments because of the things we spoke about, but nothing gives me the highs like music does. And it can be quite addictive, but it's also my form of expressing my pain and my happiness, and it's also my way of connecting with people. And you know, there's many things I want to do in my career, but my music, I just want it to touch people, and I want to be able to speak to people or fans or, you know, anyone about one of my songs and be like, you know, how was your experience? Did it help you through this time? And that's like the biggest gift out of the situation of being an artist for me, is, you know, helping people through life. You know, life isn't easy for anyone, I don't think. So if we can make it easier, you know, let's help each other through.
No, I agree. So what are the plans for the future? So what have you got in store?
Coronavirus has definitely played a part in messing up my plans a little bit, not going to lie to you. But there's a reason why everything happens. But I was meant to be already living in Miami now, like literally moving my life over there. Even like I've got 2 cats who I adore. They were going to get cat passports and come over with me, but it's all been a bit delayed. So right now my focus is, you know, carry on making music. As I'm going to be living full time in Miami, I want to, you know, work with more reggaeton guys here. I want to meet more people here. Carry on obviously promoting Cheer You Up, and long term, you know, I want to work with artists like J Balvin, Bad Bunny, Camilo, you know, there's Raul Alejandro's another one, Lunay, like there's loads of artists, Shakira, like these are all artists who I want to work with. So just like carry on pushing my singles and collaborating with other artists, and I'd love to do a massive tour. It's a big dream of mine. And then eventually I'd love to have my own makeup brand through obviously my artistry and then clothing line. So there's a lot of things which I'm working towards, but obviously with this coronavirus situation, everything's a little bit more on pause. But, you know, I think it's been hard for artists, but I think you just have to remember, you know, your career's not running away from you. The whole industry is on pause. So do the things which are important. Like for lockdown with me, as I said, I'm moving to Miami. I'm leaving my family. It's like spending time with my family, writing more music, like doing more educational stuff musically for myself, learning more. And then, you know, once I'm in Miami, it's going to be full blown 100%. Like, let's go.
And talking about the move to Miami, what's the sort of thought process behind the decision?
So it was something I'd spoken for years, because my best friend's American. We had discussed, should I move to Miami for my career? Like, not to Miami, should I move to America for my career? Because I felt like my market wasn't specifically tailored just for the UK. I wanted to reach a lot bigger than that. And also I feel like my sound and my look almost is very like Latino American as well. So I wanted to kind of reach a bigger thing, but I was still kind of young, and I was a bit scared too. And I was just like, you know, am I going to leave my whole life? And this music industry, especially initially, you know, it's rocky. It's not stable. So it was kind of a big move for me to suddenly be like, oh, I'm just going to go to Miami, like America, and hope for the best that my career works out. So it was more when I met my team in Miami, and I felt like I was, as I said, they were my musical family, that I just felt like it just clicked into place. And I was just like, I'd spent quite a lot of time there. When I was younger, I actually spent a fair bit of time in Miami because I've got a godfather who lives there. So it just literally all fell into place. And I was like, you know what, I'm so ready to go to Miami. I want to live there. And I felt every time I went to Miami, culturally for me, it's exactly what I want. It's full of Latinos, but it's super free. You know, like I was like going down what's called Lincoln Road, which is like one of their big roads there. And there's like a random truck and a girl twerking behind her, and she's doing her music video. And then I was like, this is where I want to live. Like I want to be around that level of creativity. So yeah, just like everything kind of came into place where I was just like, it's stupid for me not to move to Miami. It was like everything was ready.
Yeah, seems like.
But yeah, it's a big move. Yeah, it's a big move though, you know, to move your entire life for your career. And I have, you know, no family really there. I've got my godfather, but you know, I've lived here most of my life, so you know, it's going to be tough. But it's something I'm definitely willing to do and to take for my career because I love it.
Yeah. Wow, sounds really good, and I definitely wish you the best of luck with the move.
Thank you.
With all of your plans for the future.
Have you been to Miami?
I've not actually. So I've actually never been to the USA. Can you imagine?
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, Miami is somewhere, please. If you ever go to Miami, let me know and I'll take you round into the music studio so you can kind of experience that. But there's just like a magical vibe there. And I think for you, as you said, Latina growing up here, I don't know if you feel that kind of like whole weird thing of culture, where do I fit in or do I have to fit in? Miami's very funny because you automatically almost somewhat fit in just because it's American but very Latino at the same time. I'm very, very fond of Miami as a place.
I've definitely heard great things about Miami, and I've heard like what you said, like you sort of just feel like you fit in, like it sort of feels like an extension of a place in South America.
Yeah, and I think because it's culturally very mixed, and also this is something I adore about Miami, and it's the only place I've ever experienced this in the world. Musically, they will listen to whatever sound you have. Mm-hmm. Like I remember, like even before I would play my track and I said, I'm an artist, boom, straight away, plug my stuff into the speakers, producers, songwriters, let's hear what you have to do. And they don't care if I'm a rock artist, a reggae artist, reggaeton, British R&B, a funk artist. They honestly don't care. And I found that a lot more in the UK, where they were looking for a specific type of artist. And I think that's why Miami is so special. Is it's not judgmental on that level. It's we accept you as you are, and we want to hear you whatever sound you are. And I think that's really special, you know.
Yeah, they're definitely like more diverse musically. I think they've got more exposure to different genres, and
big time.
Even, you know, like here in the UK, slowly and gradually we're starting to see reggaeton sort of being played on radio.
It's taken a long time though, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Taken a really long time.
So I think there will come a moment where some agents or managers will sort of be kicking themselves for not taking
a big time. I'm already seeing it. It makes me laugh. I'll be at interviews and stuff, and it will be like, you know, certain DJs who've been really trying to push reggaeton for years, and they're like, guys, like I've been playing this for years. Like I've been trying to get this like popping for years, and now everyone wants to listen. But sometimes, you know, that's how the world works. You know, sometimes like it takes certain artists or certain people to push something for other people to be like, oh, like okay, yeah, I'm open to listening to this.
Yeah. Well, totally.
But I'm grateful either way. I'm grateful that finally people are listening to our culture and our music, and yeah, it's just we want to share, you know, our side of the world and our story.
Yeah, we're definitely I think we're very unique, you know, in terms of music. Like we have so much different like genres of music, like from salsa, merengue, bachata, reggaeton, cumbia.
I love that.
And they're all pretty amazing.
I know every single one of them. That's like, it's just, and it's just, there's something about Latin music, and that's why I really chose to do reggaeton. It's just like, there's nothing that gives me that feeling, and I just find it so sexy and so passionate. And I find, you know, life goes quickly at the end of the day. And I'm 24, but I think when I think back the past 5 years, how quickly they've gone, you know, dude, I want to live my life to the fullest. And if I'm doing music, dude, I want to do the most passionate music I can. Like I'm going full out. So I feel really proud to be Latina.
Yeah. Well, it's it definitely is a great thing.
Yeah, we're lucky. We're very lucky.
Yeah. Just wrapping up now, I wanted to sort of ask you, you know, what advice would you give to someone who's Latino in the UK, who's trying to get into music or sort of any sort of industry? You know, they're trying to set up their career and start. What do you think for you was the one thing that has served you well and that you'd like to share?
Yeah, lovely question. I love that question. Thank you. Never give up. And never let someone else tell you you're not good enough. Like, just believe in yourself and push it. And if you're new, if you're new anything in the industry, it applies to all industries. I think now more than ever, it's super important to network. And I think it's important for you to be seen out there and meet as many people as possible. So that would be my advice.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, no, definitely. I think it's very much needed for us to sort of continue going forward and not allow ourselves to be deterred and, you know, give up on a dream so early. Sometimes it can be really easy to to give up on a dream when
be disheartened. Yeah.
You
and I
face
think
rejection or something.
Big time. And I think rejection's tough for anyone. Rejection's not a nice feeling. But I always think, what's worse, being, let's say in my situation, 50, 60 years old, and I had given up because of rejection, or doing everything possible and trying my very best, but maybe I just didn't make it to the level I wanted. I would have preferred that option.
Yeah.
Even though it is kind of heart-wrenching,
Yeah.
I'd prefer to know that I gave it my all.
Yeah, I mean, in some sense, you're on the journey in itself.
Yeah.
And the fact that you're on the journey, at least it gives you, your probability of doing it, at least, increases. As if
higher.
You're not doing nothing, then you're definitely not going to become an artist or, make it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And I think also, especially as an artist, you have to be very proactive. No one's going to make your career for you. You have to be the one who's the one who's really like pushing it. So that's important.
Yeah. No, that's totally true. Okay, Amber. Thank you very, very much for coming on. I appreciate it. It was definitely great to talk to you. Time has flown by. It's nearly an hour. But it's been great to talk to you, to get to know about your story, your passion for music and what you're planning to do for the future. Thank you for your time, and I'm positive and I'm sure that everything's going to go really well for you. Just carry on pushing, and like you said, having that persistence of not giving up.
Thank you, and it was such a pleasure chatting to you. You're so lovely, and your questions were so lovely as well. So thank you.
Okay,
thank you for having me on your podcast.
Thank you, Amber, and thank you to everyone who was tuning in to today's episode. Next week we'll be back with another Latin American who's doing their thing as well in the UK. So thank you for tuning in, and until next time, bye-bye.